Jorge Joestar, Chapter 8, Nero Nero Island. The murders of Kira Yoshikage and Tsukumajuku, the three displays made from the bodies of murdered detectives, Morioh setting sail, the group's suicide of village residents, the mysterious figure hiding inside Cube House, and now on top of all that, another mysterious moving island sailing across the sea, just like Morioh. There were just too many things I had to think about, I thought. It'd been one thing after another, and I had no time to really work any of them over in my mind. Oh well, I had to assume this was the speed events always unfolded at in Morioh. I had to keep up. Fuck! I've got no damn idea what's going on. Let's go take a look, Nijimura Fukushigi said, and started to get on a dolphin. Hang on, Fukushigi, I said. There might be people like you on that island too. Better not to show our hands. Morioh seemed to have quite a lot of stand masters. If that unusual quality had something to do with it floating away, then that could be true over there too. If there are two islands moving across the water, they may be similarly unique. How many other stand masters were there in Morioh anyway? How many stand masters had been among the hundreds who died in Jozenji? Fukushigi grit his teeth and got off the dolphin. The other island was getting steadily closer. Maybe this'll help us recon, Morioh Taisu said, emerging from our cross with a telescope and a pair of binoculars, presumably Rohan's. Oh, I said, impressed. I was kicking myself inside though. Morioh Taisu, better not go inside our cross for a bit. Earlier I found Cube House hidden inside it, and there was someone inside Cube House. Someone suspicious. What? Morioh Taisu looked at the new island, and back at Cube House, as if not sure which one he should tackle first. I've locked Cube House up, and made sure we'll know if anything goes in or out, I said. I don't know, man. How do you get in? Oh, directly above and below the desk in the study. Got it, he said, and went back inside. He came out a few minutes later and explained. I set up a hidden video camera. I was sure the camera was Rohan's too, and the idea of him just doing whatever he wanted with Rohan's things made me want to laugh, but there was too much going on for that. Whoa! That ain't Japan! It's some foreign island! Fukushigi yelled. I took the binoculars off him and took a look. He was right. The view was nothing you'd see in Japan. There were only a few buildings in sight, but they were mostly made of brick, and there were several windmills. Not sights you saw a lot in Japanese country towns. The crops raving in the wind looked like reet. I looked down at the water's edge. There were several ships with Italian names. I found a sign by the road leading from the docks to the town. It said, Welcome to Nero Nero Island in Italian. Nero Nero Island, it says. Morioh Taisu went back inside our cross, and came back out with an encyclopedia. Nero Nero Island was about a tenth the size of Morioh, population roughly 3,000. I knew a bit more that wasn't written in the encyclopedia. Nero's Italian for black. Nero Nero Island has a long history as a mafia base. I had to do a lot of research about organised crime around the world for a previous case. These days, Nero Nero Island is the headquarters of the Passione family. They've got about 300 members, territory reaching to Rome and Napoli, the Poles in English. They're competing with the Sicilian Mafia and the Camorra, so how a group this small survives? Well, I didn't know how before, but since Nero Nero's on the move, I bet there's a good chance they've got a lot of stand masters in their ranks. They're already fairly unique in that there aren't any records of the boss's face, and he's so secretive that not even the inner circle has ever met the boss. The only name anyone even has for him is Diavolo, Italian for devil. Hey, what's that? Just like Morioh, the Nero Nero Island harbour and part of the ocean around were inside a giant bubble. I just found the truck racing down the road to the harbour. Looks like they're in trouble, Morioh Taisu said, looking through the telescope. I can see people in the back, waving at us. What? I looked, but the magnification on the binoculars wasn't strong enough. I squinted trying to see, and the truck suddenly went up in flame and rolled. Ah! We yelled. Figures emerged on either side of the burning truck, approached the people lying on the ground, and light flashed at their hands. Pop! 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 Shit! 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 Fuck! They're killing everyone on the truck! Jesus! They ambushed that truck. God damn it! I gotta go help! Morioh Taisu tossed the telescope aside and flew off into the sky with his 3 dolphins. All I could do was watch. There was a barrier around Morioh, and nothing inside or out could get through it. They'd rammed a jet fighter into it, and shot missiles at it, and couldn't break through the wall. But if Morioh Taisu somehow got through, that would definitely change things. Shit! There's still one alive! I could see someone running through the grass towards us. He must have slipped away while the gunmen were attacking the truck. He was waving desperately in the direction of Morioh, begging us to help. Light flashed around him. Bang, bang, bang! Like he was knocked aside by an invisible hand, the man running towards us went sprawling on the ground. Can't you do anything, dipshit? Fukushigi yelled. NYPD Blue had picked up the telescope and was looking through it. He bellowed back, What the fuck do you want me to do? Shoot back? He pulled a gun out of his side holster. It was huge and very real. He put it away immediately. This bad boy is a Colt Python. It's loaded with .357 Magnums. It's from the first production run they ever did. It's damn close to being a work of art. This fucker hits you, it'll blow the back of your head clean off. If it hits you. Even the best gun has an effective range, kid. Bullets don't fly forever. They slow down, their arc changes, then they turn into a bit of lead and land somewhere. That's how bullets work. Even if I had a fucking sniper rifle, I couldn't hit them at this range. Even if I could, there's a barrier between us. Probably two. Ah! So you can't fucking do anything? I am doing something. I'm gathering evidence. I'll arrest all these motherfuckers. Arrest? Fuck that. We have to help those people. No can do, asshole. Looks like one of the murder squad is Passione's Docio Cioccolata. 4 pieces of paper shot out of NYPD's Blue's side, frick from the gap of his shirt. I picked them up. They were copies of the files Interpol, the Italian police, the CIA and the FBI had on him. Not only had he sold drugs in America, he'd even been involved in terrorist activity. I'm broadcasting video footage live to all 4 organizations. Ah, Secco Rotario's there too. Passione members running around their base, killing ordinary citizens. Either they're trying to kill the boss and cutting off his escape, or they already did it and are cleaning up. 3 men who looked like farmers made it to the harbour, jumped in a boat and headed towards us. Morioh Taisu was in Morioh harbour trying to reach them, but was stuck helplessly behind the barrier. He'd begun throwing his shoulder against it, trying to break through, but the invisible wall refused to budge. Over on Nero Nero Island, the farmer's boat crashed into another invisible wall. The prow rammed headlong into it, the boat tilted sideways, and the farmers were flung out of their seats. One landed on the boat, but the other 2 went in the water. There was a good 200 metres between the 2 barriers. Morioh Taisu and his dolphins kept up their assault, but couldn't break through the wall. 200 metres away, boats came after the escape boat. Light flashed. Bang, bang. Bang, bang, bang. Ah! Shit, shit, shit! Fukushigi yelled. I couldn't watch and turned my eyes away, and saw more paper lying on the ground. I picked it up and read it. One sheet was Secco Rotario's hospital records. It didn't name any kind of psychological or physical condition. The only thing written on it was the name of his doctor, Docio Cioccolata. Wait, he was a doctor? I looked back up and the slaughter had ended. The 3 in the boat weren't the only ones who reached the water. There were other bodies lying on the docks. The mafia members moved them out of sight, dropping the bodies in the water between the boats, or tossing them into the tall grass by the side of the road to the harbour. Most likely, they only bothered so it'd be easier to kill anyone else who came running, if there was anyone left alive. Hey, they can see our island, right? Fukushigi said, his lips quivering. How can they just kill people in plain sight? I didn't answer, but there was only one answer, because it wouldn't cause any problems, or because they knew they could stop it from being a problem. The Mafia got rid of problems in 3 main ways: bribes, threats, and murdering witnesses. There was no way they'd try and buy or threaten however many people there in Morioh, but would they really try and kill everyone here? No matter how many of them there were, could they really manage that? I remembered the message Koichi Hirose had received from the former American president. He said if nothing changes, the American army will flip the island. That was delivered shortly after Morioh changed course. The sudden swerve west had put Funny Valentine in danger, so he had clearly noticed it. By nothing changes, he meant if we kept heading west, so he was still headed in the dangerous direction he'd warned us about. Was it possible the Mafia was aware of the American army's intentions? According to the records NYPD Blue Stomach had printed out, Passione had already started operating in America, and there were no lines of business the Mafia couldn't find a way to profit on, so they must have been making political and military contacts. Perhaps these had informed them. But Nero Nero Island was running alongside Morioh. It too was travelling in the same dangerous direction. Perhaps Nero Nero had received the same threat from America, and they'd taken advantage of the panic to start infighting. Were they certain their powers would allow them to survive what was coming? Whatever was going through the Passione members' minds, the threat to Morioh was still very real. Barrier Chimaru had suggested we'd have to police ourselves, but that had mostly been an appeal to Kira Yoshikage's state of mind. So in my opinion, we'd need to be prepared for further attacks from the outside. As I reached this conclusion, Morioh Taisu came riding back to us on his dolphin. He looked exhausted, physically and mentally. "Fuck those guys," he said, shaking with rage. I wasn't sure what a high school delinquent could do against the Mafia, but he was in no mood to have this pointed out. Whatever it was he could do, we all had to work together now. "Morioh Taisu, you have any idea how many stand masters there are in Morioh?" He thought for a minute, then shook his head. "How could I?" "How many do you know about?" "I can't just tell you that." "Come on, this isn't the time for that," I said, and trailed off, gaping. It was starting. "Shit, shit, 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 shit! Here it comes!" Fukushigi shrieked. Morioh Taisu turned to look. Nero Nero Island had been running off Morioh's starboard side, but it had suddenly veered portwise towards us. The head of the island was approaching diagonally. We were heading straight west, so Nero Nero Island's head came ramming into Morioh's south side, into Morioh Harbour, right before our eyes. "Oh shit!" I yelled, thinking furiously. The barrier had stood up to a jet fighter and a missile attack, but could it stop another barrier? Another island? Morioh's barrier was larger, but when two ships crashed into each other, size was less important than the angle. Morioh was unable to avoid the attack. There was a dull roar, and Morioh lurched sideways as the other island slammed into it. "Fuck!" we yelled, hastily crouching down in the grass. We put our hands on the ground to steady ourselves, but to no avail. There was a zoomp as Morioh recovered that sent me and the Nijimura brothers rolling head over heels towards the harbour. When we managed to stop ourselves and look up, we saw Nero Nero Island slowly rising out of the water. It hadn't stopped moving forward on impact. Instead, the two barriers slid against each other, forcing the smaller island upwards. Soon we could see what was propelling the island forward. Nero Nero Island hadn't just been floating. It had been swimming. As the underside of Nero Nero Island came into view, two massive legs appeared, skittering against the side of the barrier. I'm not too good with insects," Fukushigi said. There was an ear-splitting rumble. The ground shook, and then there was a thundering crack as if lightning was hitting the entire sky at once. We all clapped our hands to our ears as Nero Nero Island came crashing through the barrier dome and landed in Morioh Harbour. The weight of the other island had broken through the barrier. The barrier's soundproofing was gone too. The massive island hit the sea with a horrible thud. A white wall of waves rose up, rocking the still waters of the harbour, doing terrible things to the boats and the coastal parts of town. While the wreckage was still being tossed around in the churn, Nero Nero Island moved forward, the two legs reaching up. Two more massive muscular legs reached out from the sides of the island, hooked their claws onto the side of the hole in the barrier, and began squeezing the rest of its body, the island, through the gap. We no longer remembered to scream. The sound of the waves in Morioh Harbour echoed off the interior of the dome, the thud slamming into our bodies. It was painful, like our ears were ripping open, like someone was driving a nail into our head. But we didn't dare close our eyes. Nero Nero Island had twisted its massive body into the sky above Morioh Harbour, and was now standing on 6 legs. It was neither island nor ship, but an insect. My legs were shaking and my entire body felt numb. I couldn't move a muscle. Morioh, Taisu and Fukushigi were both standing perfectly still, mouths open, all colour drained from their faces. Only the stands were moving. Grand Blue's 3 dolphins slid up next to Morioh Taisu and started shoving into him, chirping. He snapped out of his trance just as... Bang! An explosion rang out over the sound of the waves. I jumped and spun around, and found NYPD Blue aiming his Colt Python at Nero Nero Island, smoke curling from the barrel. Eh, NYPD Blue grunted. I know perfectly well that didn't reach 'em. That was a wake-up call, you little fucks. We got no time to stand around gawking. Wake the fuck up, you punk motherfuckers! What now? If I was in charge here, I'd say we retreat and regroup. I had no objections to that plan. The Nijimuras and I stood up, dashed past our cross-house to the other side of the hill, and were about to jump on Morioh Taisu's dolphins when I remembered something. Remy Sugimoto! I let go of Johanna's fin, dropped back to the slope, used the momentum to swing myself into a U-turn and dash back up the hill. Hey! Where you going? I heard Fukushigi call after me as his dolphin carried him away. Remy! I yelled. Just as I reached the white pebbles around our cross, a voice behind me said, Thank you, George. I'll go. You run. Grateful for these words, I turned around and found Rohan flying behind me, blue thunder on his head. He passed me by. Let me take care of Sugimoto. But I didn't leave. No detective would leave until he was sure everyone was safe. And I had also remembered the figure inside Cube House. I couldn't run until I'd figured out who that was. Scrunch, scrunch, scrunch. Gravel flew in my wake, and I caught a glimpse of Nero Nero Island making land in Morioh Harbour through the sunroom window. The waves had already demolished the town, and now the island's giant legs were crushing the rubble. The ground in town couldn't handle the weight of the island. With each step the insect took, its feet sank into the ground, and the hollows filled with maybe seawater? Groundwater? Either way, the sea extended itself via these pocks. I almost stopped to gawk at it again, but I forced myself not to. I headed for the rest sunroom, where Morioh Taisu had carried Sugimoto. Rohan and Remy were there. They were watching Nero Nero Island trample Morioh Harbour, terrified. When I saw that Sugimoto had her arms around Rohan, I hesitated, but there was no time to spare. Rohan! Remy! Can you get out of here? I called out through the window. Sugimoto jumped, but shook her head. Right, she was a stand, I thought. George, she said, I think this is the safest place. I think. Huh? If it was the old Cube House, it definitely would be. To the Cube House, the outside world is beyond the world's end, and not something that ever affects it. I knew what she was saying now. Yes, normally the 7 cubes of a tesseract form the inside of an 8th cube that it wrapped around them. Cube House was a tesseract made of square walls, so inside it was a single universe, an entire world squeezed inside, so the Cube House itself wasn't part of our universe. Nothing would affect it, which meant you could attack the crap out of it, and it would never reach the inside. The walls of the Cube House were the ends of that world. Which all made me wonder why Rohan and Fukushigi had avoided exploding by being placed under our cross. I had assumed it formed a vacuum, but this was clearly not the whole story. If it had been, they wouldn't have survived there for long. They lived because they weren't just under Arrow Cross, but under Cube House, because the world's very end lay on top of them. A zone where everything was reset to zero. The absolute buffer. Pushing aside my excitement, I said, Then let's escape into Cube House.